I watched my sister tear through my gym bag, her perfectly manicured nails flashing as she pulled out my competition leotard, the one I'd spent 3 months savings on, the one I needed for tomorrow's national gymnastics qualifier. The fabric caught the light, midnight blue with hand-sewn crystals that had taken me weeks to place perfectly. Mom stood behind her, arms crossed, that familiar look of dismissal on her face. "Rachel needs it more," Mom said flatly. "She actually has a chance at winning." My throat tightened. "That's mine. I earned the money for it. I have my routine tomorrow." "Your routine?" Rachel laughed, the sound sharp and cruel. She held the leotard up against herself, admiring her reflection in the hallway mirror. "Please, you'll place last like always. I'm going to the international showcase. Real scouts will be there. Not your sad little qualifier." The leotard was already stretched over her arm. She was bigger than me, curvier. If she wore it, she'd ruin it. The delicate fabric would never recover. "Mom, please." I hated how my voice cracked. "I worked so hard, and Rachel works harder." Mom's tone was final. "Stop being selfish, Claire. Your sister's career actually matters." Rachel smirked and walked away, my leotard, my dream, clutched in her hands. I stood there in the hallway, 17 years old, watching everything I'd worked for disappear into her room, again. But here's what they didn't know. I'd lived this exact moment before. 3 weeks ago, I died. Not this version of me, the other Claire, the one who lived to be 35, the one who spent her entire life being her family's doormat, who gave up gymnastics that day because she had nothing to wear to the qualifier, who watched Rachel become a mediocre fitness influencer while taking credit for every idea Claire ever had. The Claire who eventually died alone in a studio apartment, broke and forgotten, while Rachel posted vacation photos from Bali. Then I woke up in my 17-year-old body 3 weeks before this moment, with every memory of the next 18 years burned into my brain like a scar. And this time, I had a plan. I watched Rachel prance down the hallway, already imagining how she'd pose in my leotard for Instagram. Let her. This was actually perfect. Because in my first life, I'd cried, begged, eventually shown up to the qualifier in my old practice clothes, and bombed my routine. I'd given up after that, let the dream die. Not this time. This time, I knew exactly what was coming. I knew Rachel would get food poisoning the night before her showcase, bad sushi from that place on 5th Street she'd insist on trying. I knew she'd blame me somehow. I knew Mom would still take her side. I knew Dad wouldn't even look up from his phone, but I also knew something else. In 6 months, the old Wellington gym downtown would go up for sale for a fraction of its value. The owner, Mrs. Chen, would be desperate to sell before her daughter's wedding. In my previous life, I'd walked past the for sale sign every day on my way to my dead-end retail job, dreaming about what could have been. This time, I was going to buy it. I turned away from the hallway and went to my room, the smallest bedroom in the house, the one that used to be a storage closet, while Rachel had the master with the ensuite bathroom. I closed the door and pulled out my phone, opening a new note. Things I know. March 15th, Rachel's showcase, food poisoning. April 2nd, Bitcoin surge, sell point. May 8th, Mom's investment opportunity, banana. Scam. June 20th, Wellington gym for sale. July 3rd, Dad's promotion. August 12th, Rachel's Instagram scandal, original timeline. I'd spent the last 3 weeks preparing. The day I woke up in my teenage body, I'd found the old laptop I'd hidden my babysitting money in. $2,347 that my parents didn't know about. I'd immediately bought Bitcoin. It was 2015, and in 3 months, it would spike. Not the huge surge that would come later, but enough to give me $15,000, enough for a down payment on a dying gym. My phone buzzed. Jenny, my only real friend. Jenny, still on for tomorrow? I'll be there cheering. Tomorrow. The qualifier. In my old life, I'd been so devastated about the leotard that I'd barely tried. But I had a backup plan now, a plain black leotard that wouldn't win any points for presentation, but would let me focus on what I was actually good at, the gymnastics. Me, definitely. Thanks for believing in me, Jenny. Always, your sister is the worst BTW. I smiled. Jenny had been the one person who saw through my family's dynamics, who called it what it was, abuse, Not physical, but the death by 1,000 cuts kind. The constant dismissal, the favoritism, the way they treated me like a servant who should be grateful for their tolerance. In my previous life, I'd lost touch with Jenny after high school. She'd gone to college and I'd stayed local, working retail and trying to help Rachel's career because Mom had guilt-tripped me into it. I'd spent 5 years as Rachel's unpaid assistant, booking her gigs, editing her photos, managing her social media, while she took all the credit and complained that I wasn't doing enough. Never again. I pulled out my old journal from under my mattress. I'd been using it to document everything from my previous life, every detail I could remember. The journal was filling up fast. Dates, events, conversations, business ideas, opportunities I'd missed, but also every cruel thing my family had done. Every time Rachel had stolen from me, blamed me, used me. Every time Mom had taken her side without question. Every time Dad had ignored me completely, too absorbed in his own life to notice he had 2 daughters, not one. I flipped to a fresh page and started writing. The leotard incident. Take 2. What happened? Rachel took my competition leotard with Mom's blessing. I was supposed to be devastated. What I did? Let them think I was devastated. Acted upset enough to be believable, but gave in quickly. This establishes their expectations. What they don't know, I have a backup. I'm still competing tomorrow. And every moment of this, Rachel parading in my leotard, Mom's dismissal, their absolute certainty that I don't matter, is fuel for what's coming. I closed the journal and pulled out my backup leotard from where I'd hidden it in my closet, wrapped in an old sweatshirt. Plain black, simple, but mine. I'd bought it with birthday money the first week after I woke up in this timeline, knowing exactly what was coming. Tomorrow, I'd compete. I'd place 3rd, not first because my routine wasn't quite polished enough yet, but good enough. Good enough to get noticed by Coach Martinez, who'd offer to train me privately for a reduced rate because she saw potential. In my old life, I'd never met Coach Martinez. In this life, I'd make sure our paths crossed. But gymnastics wasn't the end game. It was the foundation. In my previous life, I'd been naturally good at it, strong, flexible, disciplined, but I'd given it up too easily, let my family's dismissal become my reality. This time, I'd stick with it through senior year. I'd build the muscle, the reputation, the knowledge. I'd get certified as a personal trainer. I'd learn about nutrition, body mechanics, rehabilitation, sports psychology, everything I'd need to run a successful gym. And when Wellington Gym went up for sale, I'd be ready. I heard Rachel's music start up in her room. She was probably taking selfies in my leotard right now. In my old life, she'd posted 17 photos in that leotard, never once crediting me or acknowledging it wasn't hers. Some of those photos had gone semi-viral, launching her influencer career. She'd built her entire aesthetic around that midnight blue, claiming it was her signature color. This time, she'd barely get to wear it. The sushi would hit tomorrow night, 12 hours before her showcase. She'd be too sick to perform. She'd blame the restaurant, never connecting it to her own impulsive decision to ignore my warning about their health rating. Oh, I'd warn her. I'd play the concerned little sister perfectly. Rachel, I heard that place failed their inspection. And she'd roll her eyes and go anyway, because Rachel never listened to me. The food poisoning wouldn't be my fault, but I wouldn't exactly be sad about it either. My phone buzzed again, this time an email notification. I'd set up alerts for certain keywords. Wellington Gym, gym for sale, fitness studio lease. Nothing yet. Still 3 months away. I pulled up my secret spreadsheet, the one I kept in a password-protected cloud account my family would never think to look for. It tracked everything. Current assets, $2,347, hidden cash, plus $890 Bitcoin, current value, projected assets, 3 months. $15,000, Bitcoin sale, projected assets, 6 months. $18,000, Bitcoin plus part-time training income. Wellington Gym. Target price, $45,000. Minimum down payment needed, 20%. $9,000. Renovation budget needed, $20,000. Emergency fund, $5,000. Total needed, $34,000. Current gap, $31,653. The gap looked impossible, but I had advantages this time. I knew Coach Martinez would introduce me to her wealthy clients who needed private training. I knew which clients would tip well, which would refer their friends, which would become long-term relationships. In my old life, I'd worked retail for minimum wage. This time, I'd be making 40 socks per session within 6 months. More importantly, I knew about Dad's promotion. In July, his company would offer him a senior position with a $30,000 signing bonus. In my previous life, he'd immediately given $20,000 of it to Rachel for her business, a boutique gym clothing line that had failed within a year, losing every penny. This time, I was going to make sure I got there first. But not by begging, not by asking for fairness or equal treatment. I'd tried that approach for 18 years in my previous life. It never worked. You can't reason with people who fundamentally don't value you. No, this time I'd play a different game. I'd appeal to Dad's ego, his business sense. I'd present him with a solid business plan, growth projections, market research. I'd make investing in me look like the smart financial decision it actually was. And I'd do it before Rachel even thought to ask for money. The key was timing and information, and not showing my hand too early. I closed my laptop and looked at the corkboard above my desk. In my old timeline, it had been empty. I'd never bothered decorating this little closet room. This time, I'd pinned up my goals, summer 2015. Place in top 3 at qualifier fall 2015. Train with Coach Martinez. Winter 2015. Get certified as personal trainer. Spring 2016. Build private client base. Summer 2016. Purchase Wellington Gym. Fall 2016. Grand opening of Momentum Fitness Studio Momentum. I'd already picked the name. In my previous life, I'd been stagnant, stuck, going nowhere. This time, I'd be unstoppable. A knock on my door made me jump. "What?" Mom's voice sharp. "Dinner's ready, and stop sulking. Rachel needs your support tomorrow, not your attitude." I bit back the response I wanted to give. Instead, "I'll be right down." "And wash those dishes in the sink." I shouldn't have to ask. The dishes were Rachel's. They were always Rachel's. But I'd wash them, play the role, keep my head down. Gray rock method. I'd learned about it in therapy in my previous life. Far too late. Become boring, unresponsive, not worth the effort to torment. Give them nothing to work with. I went downstairs to find the kitchen exactly as I'd left it. Rachel's breakfast dishes in the sink, her shopping bags on the counter, her shoes kicked off in the middle of the floor. Mom was plating food, chicken and vegetables for Rachel, Dad, and herself. A bowl of plain pasta sat on the counter, clearly meant for us, me. "Claire, come set the table," Mom said without looking up. I set 4 places, even though I knew I'd end up eating in my room like always. Rachel and Dad were already at the table, Dad on his phone, Rachel scrolling through Instagram. "Your sister got 50,000 new followers today," Mom announced proudly as she set down the plates. "That sponsorship deal might actually happen." The sponsorship deal, I remembered it now. Rachel had been so excited. An athletic wear company had expressed interest, wanted to send her free clothes in exchange for posts. In my old life, it had fallen through because Rachel's engagement rate was fake. She'd been buying followers. The company had figured it out within a month. "That's great," I said neutrally. Rachel didn't even look up. "Thanks to my new content strategy, I'm thinking of expanding into fitness coaching." Fitness coaching. Rachel, who'd quit gymnastics at 16 because she didn't like sweating. Who'd never stuck with any workout program for more than 2 weeks. Who'd spent the last year posting gym selfies without actually working out, just posing in the locker room mirror. In my previous life, she'd actually done it. She'd launched Rachel's Body Revolution, a program she'd copied from legitimate trainers online, repackaged with her own branding, and sold for $197. It had worked for about 6 months before people realized the programs didn't deliver results and the meal plans were dangerously low-calorie. By then, she'd made about $50,000 and moved on to the next grift. I'd helped her create that program. I'd done the actual research, written the workout plans, calculated the nutrition. She'd put her name on it and taken all the money. "Claire could help you," Mom said suddenly. "Yeah, she's always at the gym anyway. You could use her as a before model." Before model, as in the unflattering before picture in a transformation campaign. Rachel's eyes lit up. "Oh my God, yes! Claire, you're perfect. You're so Plain, relatable. Girls will see you and think, I could be like Rachel if I try. Dad finally looked up. That's actually smart, Rachel. Good use of resources. Resources. That's what I was to them. An unpaid assistant, a free marketing prop, a convenient scapegoat when things went wrong. I don't think so, I said quietly. Silence. Mom's fork paused halfway to her mouth. Rachel's head snapped up from her phone. What? Mom's voice was dangerous. I said no thank you, I'm busy with my own training. Your training? Rachel laughed. Mom, she's serious. She actually thinks her little gymnastics hobby matters. It's not a hobby, I said, keeping my voice level. It's a sport. And I'm competing tomorrow. In what, the Special Olympics? Rachel sneered. Rachel, Dad said mildly, not looking up from his phone. Don't be mean. Don't be mean. That was the extent of his intervention. Not apologize, not that's unacceptable. Just a gentle suggestion that maybe she could tone it down a bit. I'm just being realistic, Rachel said. Claire, you're 17. You're not going pro. You're not even going to college for it. Why waste everyone's time? I'm going to the qualifier tomorrow, I repeated. And I'm going to place. Mom set down her fork with a sharp click. This is why we don't encourage you, Claire. You set yourself up for disappointment. Rachel is being practical. Rachel is being cruel, I interrupted. And you enable it. The words hung in the air. In my previous life, I'd never said them. I'd thought them 1,000 times, cried about them into my pillow, but never spoken them aloud. Mom's face flushed red. How dare you? After everything we do for you. You do nothing for me, I said, and my voice was steady, calm. 18 years of pain in my previous life had burned away my fear. You give Rachel my things. You prioritize her needs. You dismiss my accomplishments. You treat me like an inconvenience. Get out, Mom's voice shook me. Go to your room. I was going to anyway. I stood, leaving the untouched pasta. I have to prepare for tomorrow. As I walked away, I heard Rachel. Oh my God, what's her problem? And Mom. She's jealous. She's always been jealous of you. I closed my bedroom door and leaned against it, heart pounding. That had felt good. Dangerous, but good. I'd shown too much spine too soon. They'd be watching me more carefully now. But it was worth it, because tomorrow, everything changed. Tomorrow, I proved I existed. The qualifier was held at Lincoln Sports Complex, a massive facility that smelled like floor wax and nervous sweat. I arrived with Jenny at 6 a.m., 3 hours before my division started. Coach Martinez was running a clinic for her students, and I wanted to watch, to learn, to be seen. She was exactly as I remembered from my internet stalking in my previous life. 50-something, compact and powerful, with iron gray hair pulled back in a tight bun. She'd been an Olympian in the 80s, had trained dozens of successful gymnasts, and had a reputation for being brilliant but selective about her students. I watched her coach a girl through a balance beam routine, her instructions precise and constructive. Better, but you're still hesitating on the dismount. You know the physics, commit or don't attempt it. Half commitment gets you injured. The girl nodded, tried again, stuck the landing. There, see? Your body knows what to do. You just have to trust it. I wanted that confidence, that trust. In my previous life, I'd never had it. Not in gymnastics, not in anything. You're staring, Jenny whispered. Should I be jealous? I smiled. That's Coach Martinez, best in the state. Are you going to talk to her? After I compete, let my gymnastics speak first. My division started at 9. I changed into my plain black leotard in the locker room, braided my hair tightly, chalked my hands. Around me, other girls wore elaborate asas, competition wear, their leotards sparkling with rhinestones and strategic cutouts. I looked like someone who'd shown up to the wrong event. Good. Let them underestimate me. I was 7th in the rotation. I watched the first 6 girls. Most were good, a few were great. The scores ranged from 8.2 to 9.4. I needed a 9.0 to place in the top 3. My floor routine was first. Music, instrumental remix of Warriors by Imagine Dragons. Choreography, designed by me, emphasizing power over grace. My strength had always been in the tumbling, the explosive movements, not the delicate dance elements. The music started. I moved. In my previous life, I'd been so defeated that day that I'd barely tried. This time, I poured everything into it. Every year of being dismissed, every moment of being invisible, every ounce of rage I'd carried for 18 years in another timeline. Back handspring, round off, double back tuck, landing solid. I heard the crowd react, a small gasp. Good. Leap sequence, pirouette, front aerial walkover, a risky move I'd never attempted in competition before, but I'd done it 1,000 times in my previous life's memory. Stuck it, final tumbling pass, round off, back handspring, full twisting layout. I launched myself into the air, rotated, spotted the ground, landed. Solid. The music ended. I saluted the judges, chest heaving. My heart was pounding so hard I thought it might burst. Score 9.2. I stared at the scoreboard in disbelief. In my first life, I'd scored a 7.8. Jenny was screaming in the stands. A few other people were clapping. And Coach Martinez was watching me with an expression I couldn't quite read. My vault was next. I'd kept it simple. Yurchenko layout. I'd done it hundreds of times in practice, and it was reliable. I needed consistency now, not flash. Score 8.9, uneven bars, my weakest event. But I'd practiced the dismount obsessively over the last 3 weeks, knowing I needed to maximize every point. Score 8.7, balance beam. In my previous life, I'd fallen. This time, I moved through the routine with mechanical precision. No flourishes, no risks, just clean execution. Score 9.0, overall average, 8.95. I placed 3rd. As I stood on the podium, a small bronze medal around my neck, I looked out at the mostly empty stands. Mom hadn't come. She was with Rachel, preparing for her showcase tonight. Dad was at work. Only Jenny was there, cheering like I'd won Olympic gold. And Coach Martinez was walking toward me. Claire Davis? She looked at my registration form, then back at me. That floor routine, who's your coach? I don't have one. I mean, I train at the community gym, but no private coach. Her eyebrows rose. You're self-taught? Mostly. YouTube tutorials, online resources. I'd been about to say muscle memory from a previous life, but caught myself. Your technique on that aerial walkover, that's advanced. And risky without proper supervision. She paused. You're a junior? Senior next year? Colleges will want to see this. You could get scholarship offers if you keep improving. She pulled out a business card. I run a training facility. I'm selective about students, but I think you have potential. If you're interested, come by for an evaluation. No charge for the first session. I took the card, trying not to let my hands shake. This was it. The first domino. Thank you. I'll definitely come by. She nodded and walked away. Jenny bounded down from the stands and nearly tackled me. You were amazing. 3rd place. And was that the Coach Martinez? Yeah. I looked at the card even though I'd memorized her information years ago in another timeline. She wants to evaluate me. Claire, this is huge. It was, but it was also just the beginning. My phone buzzed. A text from Mom. Rachel is sick, food poisoning. She can't perform tonight. This is your fault somehow, I know it. I stared at the message, a cold satisfaction settling in my chest. Right on schedule. Rachel's food poisoning lasted 3 days. She missed her showcase, lost the sponsorship opportunity, and spent 72 hours dramatically moaning in her bedroom while Mom brought her soup and ginger ale. I was blamed for not warning her about the restaurant, even though she'd laughed at me and gone anyway. You should have insisted, Mom said, as if I'd ever been able to make Rachel do anything. I didn't argue. I'd learned to pick my battles. Instead, I focused on my own path. The first session with Coach Martinez was everything I'd hoped for. She put me through 2 hours of intensive evaluation, testing my strength, flexibility, technique, and mental toughness. At the end, she sat me down in her office. "You're raw," she said bluntly. "Your basics are solid, but you've developed some bad habits from self-teaching. Nothing unfixable, but it'll take work." "I'm not afraid of work." "I can see that. Here's what I'm thinking. 2 sessions per week, $100 per session. That's my friends and family rate. My normal rate is $200. But I think you're worth the investment." $200 a month. In my previous life, that would have been impossible. This time, I'd planned for it. "I can do that, but I'll need to work to afford it. Do you know anyone looking for help around the gym? Cleaning, equipment maintenance, anything?" She studied me for a long moment. "Actually, I've been thinking about adding personal training services. I'm a gymnastics coach, not a trainer, but several clients have asked. If you got certified, I could refer overflow clients to you. You'd use my facility, and we'd split the fee 60-40. This was even better than I'd remembered. In my previous life, I'd found out about this opportunity secondhand, years too late. I'd need to get certified first. "There's a weekend intensive course next month, $600, and you'll be certified through NASM. If you're serious about this, I'll loan you the certification fee. You can pay me back through training sessions." I wanted to cry. In my previous life, no one had ever invested in me. No one had ever said, "You're worth it." "Yes," I managed. "Yes, I'm serious, thank you." "Don't thank me yet. I'm a tough coach and I'll expect professionalism if you're representing my facility." "But I think you've got something, Claire. I see a lot of kids in this sport, and most of them are doing it because their parents push them. You're different. You're hungry." Hungry, that was exactly right. I was starving for this. For success, for independence, for proof that I was worth something. Over the next 3 months, I lived a double life. At home, I was still invisible. Claire, the disappointment, the one who did the dishes and laundry while Rachel rebuilt her social media following. I kept my head down, said nothing about my training, let them think I'd given up gymnastics after the qualifier. But outside that house, I was transforming. I trained with Coach Martinez twice a week, rebuilding my technique from the ground up. I completed the personal training certification in April, scoring in the top 5% of my class. By May, I had my first paying client, a middle-aged woman named Susan, who wanted to lose weight before her daughter's wedding. Coach Martinez charged her $60 per session and gave me $24. It wasn't much, but it was mine. By June, I had 6 regular clients. I was making $600 a week, working afternoons and weekends while finishing my senior year of high school. I'd paid Coach Martinez back for the certification course. My Bitcoin investment had paid off exactly as predicted. I'd sold at the peak and now had $14,800 in my secret bank account. Wellington Gym's for sale sign went up on June 18th, 2 days ahead of schedule. I went to see it that afternoon. The building was even sadder than I remembered. Dated equipment, peeling paint, broken mirrors. But the bones were good. 3,000 square feet, high ceilings, a small office space, a decent location near the downtown area that was starting to gentrify. Mrs. Chen was there, showing the space to another potential buyer, a man in an expensive suit who kept checking his phone and wrinkling his nose at the shabby decor. "The equipment is outdated," he said dismissively. "I'd have to gut the whole place, not worth the asking price." "The asking price is very reasonable for this area," Mrs. Chen said, but she sounded tired. The man left without making an offer. Mrs. Chen noticed me lurking by the door. "Can I help you?" "I'd like to see the space for a potential business." She looked me up and down, 17 years old, in gym clothes, clearly not the typical buyer. But she was gracious enough not to dismiss me. "Come in." I walked through the space slowly, touching the equipment, checking the structure. I knew every inch of this gym from my previous life. I'd walked past it thousands of times, memorizing it like a prayer. "How much are you asking?" I already knew, $45,000. $45,000. It's a good deal for this area. Downtown's growing, and this location will be worth double in a few years. "Why are you selling?" She hesitated, then sighed. My daughter's getting married in Singapore. I'm moving there to be close to my grandchildren. I need to sell quickly. How quickly? I'd like to close by the end of July. Perfect. Dad's promotion came through July 3rd, 6 weeks. What if I told you I could pay cash, close within a month, but I need the price at $35,000? She laughed, not unkindly, but genuinely surprised. Young lady, do you have $35,000 in cash? Not yet, but I will in 3 weeks. And you're, 17. I'll be 18 in 2 weeks so I can legally sign contracts. I'm a certified personal trainer and I want to turn this into a boutique fitness studio. Small group training, personalized programs, community-focused. Mrs. Chen studied me with new interest. That's a good business model for this location. Better than another chain gym. She paused. But $35,000 is too low. I have other offers. Do you have other offers that can close in 4 weeks? Cash, no inspection contingencies? She didn't. I could see it in her eyes. I need to think about it, she said. Give me your contact information. If I don't get a better offer by July 1st, we'll talk. I gave her my email and phone number, then left before she could change her mind. As I walked back to my car, a beat-up Honda I'd bought for $800 with my training money, I felt the familiar thrill of a plan coming together. 3 weeks to get the money. I had $14,800 from Bitcoin. I'd make about $800 more from training sessions. That was $16,600. I needed $35,000, which meant I needed another $18,400 from Dad. That night at dinner, I made my move. Dad had been in a good mood all week. The promotion was happening, though the official announcement wasn't until Monday. Rachel was busy planning her next Instagram campaign. Something about fitness journey authenticity that made me want to laugh. Dad, I said casually, can I talk to you about something business-related? He looked up, surprised. I never asked him for anything. What kind of business? I'm starting a fitness training company. I'm already certified and have paying clients. There's a property available, a gym space that's for sale significantly below market value. I have a business plan if you want to see it. Rachel snorted. Claire's starting a business? That's hilarious. I'm serious. I pulled out my tablet and opened the detailed presentation I'd spent weeks perfecting. Market research, financial projections, competitive analysis, growth strategy, everything a venture capitalist would want to see. Dad took the tablet, scrolling through slowly. His expression shifted from amused tolerance to genuine interest. You put this together? Yes. These projections, they're conservative, smart. He kept reading. And you already have clients? 6 regular clients, $60 per session, twice weekly average. I'm grossing about $2,800 a month right now. With my own space, I could take on more clients and add small group classes. I project $15,000 monthly revenue within 6 months, $30,000 within a year. Mom was staring at me like I'd grown a second head. Rachel had stopped scrolling on her phone. How much do you need? Dad asked. The property is $35,000. I have $16,600 saved. I need $18,400 for the purchase, plus another $5,000 for initial renovations and equipment. I took a breath. I'm proposing a loan, not a gift. Percent interest, 5-year repayment term. I'll give you a formal contract, quarterly financial reports. Everything in writing. Dad set down the tablet. For a long moment, he just looked at me. Really looked at me, maybe for the first time in years. Where did this come from? He asked, and he sounded genuinely curious, not dismissive. It's always been there, I said quietly. You just never noticed. The truth hung in the air between us. Mom opened her mouth to say something, probably to defend their parenting or redirect to Rachel, but Dad held up a hand. Let me think about it. Send me the full business plan and your financial records. I want to see proof of your current client base and income. I can do that tonight. Rachel was turning red. Wait, you're seriously considering this? Dad, I have a business idea too. We can talk about yours later, Rachel, Dad said. And there was something different in his tone. An edge. Like maybe, just maybe, he was starting to see the dynamics I'd been trapped in. Or maybe I was projecting. But I'd take it. That night, I sent Dad everything. My business plan, my bank statements, testimonials from my clients, my certification, my training logs, even my gymnastics scores. I built a case that I was worth betting on, and then I waited. July 3rd came. Dad got his promotion and his $30,000 signing bonus. Rachel immediately launched her campaign for funding. She wanted to start a YouTube channel, needed equipment, editing software, a ring light, a better camera. She had no business plan, no proof of concept, just promises and enthusiasm. It'll definitely work this time, she said. I have such a good feeling about it. Mom supported her vocally. Rachel has such a great eye for trends. This is a smart investment. Dad looked tired. Let me think about it. On July 5th, he called me into his office. I read your business plan, he said. 3 times, actually. It's solid, Claire. Really solid. My heart was pounding. I'm going to give you the $20,000. Not a loan, an investment. I want 25% equity in the business. I'd expected this. 15%. 20%. Done. We shook hands. My father's grip was firm, professional. This was the most respect he'd ever shown me. One condition, he added. If Rachel asks, tell her I loaned you the money at high interest. I don't want the drama. So he knew. He knew Rachel would melt down, that Mom would take her side, that this would cause a family explosion, and he was asking me to lie about it to keep the peace. In my old life, I would have agreed, swallowed the injustice, taken the secret to my grave while Rachel got everything handed to her guilt-free. This time? No, this is a legitimate business investment. If you're ashamed to tell them that, then you shouldn't be doing it. Dad's jaw tightened. For a moment, I thought he'd take it back. Then he nodded slowly. You're right. You're absolutely right. He exhaled. This family has enabled Rachel for too long. Your mother and we've failed you, Claire. I see that now. I hadn't expected that. Hadn't expected an admission, however small. Thank you, I managed. Make it work, he said. Prove to everyone that you're the one who deserved the investment. Oh, I would. I absolutely would. The explosion came at dinner that night when Dad announced he'd invested in my business instead of Rachel's YouTube channel. Rachel burst into tears, screaming that I'd stolen her opportunity, that I'd always been jealous of her, that this was favoritism. The irony was so thick I nearly choked on it. Mom was outraged. How could you? Rachel has been working so hard on her social media. Rachel has been playing on her phone, Dad interrupted. Claire has a real business with real clients and real revenue. This is a sound investment. But Rachel is 23 years old and has never held a job for more than 3 months. Claire is 17 and is already running a successful training practice. I'm making the smart choice. I sat there silently eating my dinner, watching my family implode. It felt surreal. In my previous life, this conversation had never happened. Dad had given Rachel the money without question. I'd watched from the sidelines as she'd burned through it and asked for more. This is your fault. Rachel turned on me, mascara running down her face. You poisoned him against me. I showed him a business plan, I said calmly. You should try it sometime. She lunged at me, actually lunged, hands out, going for my face. Mom caught her, pulled her back. Girls, please. She's not a girl. She's a snake. Rachel was hysterical now. Everything I have, she tries to take. My clothes, my followers, my opportunities. Your clothes? I set down my fork carefully. Rachel, you took my competition leotard. You wear my things constantly without asking. You've stolen money from my room. You've taken credit for work I did. You've built your entire online persona around ideas I gave you. So don't talk to me about taking what's yours. You did, Dad said quietly. Rachel, you did all of those things. I saw it. Your mother saw it. We just, we didn't want to see it. Mom looked stricken. She'd been so sure of the family narrative. Rachel was the golden child, the success, the one worth investing in. Claire was the supporting character, the help, the one who should be grateful for the crumbs, but the narrative was crumbling, and she couldn't hold it together. "This is ridiculous," Mom said finally. "Claire, if you take this money, don't expect any more support from this family." "I never expected any support to begin with," I replied. "That's why I built something on my own." I excused myself and went to my room, leaving them to their drama. My phone was already ringing. Mrs. Chen. "I got your email about the offer," she said. You can really close in 2 weeks?" "I have the money. We can close whenever you're ready." "Then let's do it. I'll have my lawyer drop the papers." I hung up and stared at the ceiling of my tiny closet bedroom, the one I'd be leaving soon. By the end of July, I'd own a gym. By fall, I'd have a thriving business. By this time next year, I'd be financially independent, successful, and free. And my family would have to watch. Wellington Gym, soon to be Momentum Fitness Studio, closed on July 18th. I signed the papers the day after my 18th birthday with Dad as a witness and co-investor. The property was mine, well, 80% mine, but it felt like 100% freedom. I spent 3 weeks doing renovations. I hired a contractor for the major work: new flooring, fixed mirrors, updated lighting, fresh paint in slate gray and sage green. I kept the good equipment, sold the broken stuff, and used that money to buy 3 new cable machines and a set of free weights. The old office became a consultation room. I hung my certifications on the wall: personal trainer, CPR certified, nutrition specialist. I'd taken that course in June. I bought a nice desk from a used furniture store and set up a legitimate booking system on my laptop. I painted a logo on the wall, Momentum in bold letters, with a stylized arrow pointing upward. Beneath it, fitness studio and personal training. The grand opening was August 15th. I'd sent invitations to everyone I knew: my existing clients, Coach Martinez and her students, Jenny's family, even some people from my old gymnastics qualifier. I'd posted on local social media groups, hung flyers at coffee shops, run a small ad in the community newsletter. I did not invite my family. Rachel found out anyway. Someone had tagged the location on Instagram. She showed up an hour before the opening, mom in tow. "So this is your little gym," Rachel said, looking around with thinly veiled disdain. "It's small." "It's intimate," I corrected. "Boutique fitness is about personalization, not scale." "And you think you can make money from this?" "I already am." She walked around touching equipment, inspecting the space like she was looking for flaws. Mom stood near the entrance, arms crossed, disapproving without saying a word. "You know this won't last," Rachel said finally. "You're not cut out for business. You're not like me." "You're right," I agreed. "I'm not like you. I do my own work instead of stealing other people's ideas. I build things instead of burning through other people's money. I actually care about my clients instead of using them for Instagram content." Her face flushed. "That's not fair." "It's completely fair. Rachel, you've been coasting on lies and borrowed credibility your entire life. This," I gestured around the studio, "is what actual work looks like." "Girls," Mom intervened, but there was no conviction in her voice. She couldn't defend Rachel without condemning herself. "You need to leave," I said calmly. "This is my business, my space. You're not welcome here unless you're paying for a training session. You can't kick out your own family. Watch me." I walked to the door and held it open. "You have 60 seconds before I call the police for trespassing." Rachel's mouth fell open. In our entire lives, I'd never stood up to her like this. Never been this direct, this firm, this completely done with her bullshit. "Claire," Mom tried, "but this is no way to treat your family. You don't get to lecture me about family. Not after 17 years of treating me like I don't exist." I kept my voice level, professional. "Now please leave. I have a business to open." They left, Rachel in tears, Mom stiff with outrage. I watched them go and felt nothing but relief. Jenny arrived 10 minutes later with balloons and a congratulatory cake. Please tell me I didn't just see your sister and mom leaving. They stopped by uninvited. I showed them the door. You're my hero. Jenny hugged me. This place looks amazing, Claire. I'm so proud of you. Over the next 2 hours, more people arrived than I dared to hope for. My 6 existing clients came, bringing friends and family members. Coach Martinez brought 3 of her students. A reporter from the local newspaper showed up. I'd sent a press release about a teen entrepreneur opening a fitness studio, and apparently that was newsworthy. By the end of the opening event, I had 12 new client consultations booked and 3 people interested in my small group training classes. That first month, I made $8,000 in revenue. After expenses, my profit was $4,200. In 6 months, I was grossing $25,000 monthly. I'd hired 2 additional trainers to help with overflow, expanded my group classes, and started offering nutrition coaching as an add-on service. In a year, Momentum Fitness Studio had 89 active clients, a waiting list, and a 5-star rating across all review platforms. I'd been featured in 2 local magazines, 1 regional newspaper, and a fitness podcast. Coach Martinez referred all her students to me for strength training. I'd partnered with a physical therapy clinic to offer post-rehab fitness programs. I'd paid off my father's investment in full, with interest, 8 months early. He'd offered to reinvest his returns back into the business for expansion. I'd accepted on my terms, with proper contracts and board oversight. I hired an accountant. I hired a lawyer. I ran my business like a professional because that's what I was. And Rachel? Rachel watched all of this from the sidelines, her own ventures continually failing. Her YouTube channel never took off. Her fitness coaching program got terrible reviews. Turns out people don't want advice from someone with no credentials or experience. Her influencer career plateaued as algorithms changed and her engagement dropped. She tried to copy my business model, of course. She posted about starting her own training studio, claimed she'd been planning it for years, implied I'd stolen her idea. But talk is cheap. Rachel was all talk. I, on the other hand, was building an empire. 18 months after opening Momentum Fitness Studio, I bought the property next door, a vacant retail space that I converted into an expansion. Now I had 6,000 square feet, a dedicated weight training area, a cardio section, a studio for group classes, a rock climbing wall, and a juice bar. I'd hired 8 trainers, all properly certified, all paid fairly. I'd instituted profit sharing for employees who stayed longer than a year. I'd created a scholarship program offering free training to low-income clients who couldn't afford regular sessions. Momentum. Fitness wasn't just a gym. It was a community. I was 20 years old and had built something real. Rachel was 25 and still living at home, still trying to find her big break, still blaming everyone else for her failures. Mom had stopped speaking to me after I refused to lend Rachel money for her latest scheme. "You've changed," she'd said coldly. "You've become selfish." "I've become independent," I'd corrected. "There's a difference." Dad, surprisingly, had come around. He'd apologized for the years of neglect. "I was a coward," he'd said. "I let your mother dictate the family dynamics because it was easier than confronting her. I let Rachel become a monster because I didn't want to deal with her tantrums. And I ignored you because you didn't demand attention. You should have demanded attention." "I shouldn't have had to," I'd replied. But I'd accepted his apology. Not because he deserved forgiveness, but because I was ready to move forward without the weight of resentment. He'd become a regular at my gym, attending small group classes, telling everyone about his daughter's business. It was performative, his way of assuaging guilt, but I accepted it because it was useful. His connections brought me corporate clients, executive coaching contracts, wellness program partnerships. I used everything and everyone to build my empire. That was the difference between me and Rachel. I understood that success requires strategic relationships, hard work, and genuine value creation. She thought it required good lighting and hashtags. On the 2-year anniversary of Momentum Fitness Studio, Side hosted a celebration event. 200 people came: clients, employees, business partners, local politicians, media. I'd commissioned a photographer, hired a catering company, turned my gym into an actual party venue. Rachel posted on Instagram that she couldn't attend because she was busy with a major project. The reality? She hadn't been invited. I gave a speech that night, standing in the center of my gym, surrounded by equipment I'd chosen, walls I'd painted, a business I'd built from nothing. 2 years ago, I had a dream and 16,600, I said. People told me I was too young, too inexperienced, too insignificant. Some of those people were in this room. I made brief eye contact with Dad, who had the grace to look uncomfortable. But I knew something they didn't, that underestimation is an advantage. When people don't expect anything from you, every success is a shock, and success built from nothing is so much sweeter than success handed to you on a silver platter. The room applauded. I saw clients tearing up, saw my employees beaming with pride, saw Coach Martinez nodding in approval. After the speech, dozens of people came up to congratulate me, to share their own stories of being underestimated, to thank me for creating a space where they felt valued. A woman approached me near the end of the night, mid-40s, expensively dressed, carrying herself with executive confidence. "Claire Davis? I'm Margaret Chen, Emily Chen's daughter." It took me a moment to place the name. Emily Chen, Mrs. Chen, who'd sold me this property. "Your mother was so kind to me. How is she?" "She's wonderful, living in Singapore, loving her grandchildren." Margaret smiled. "She told me about you, the teenager who bought her gym with a business plan and a dream." I was skeptical, honestly, but I've been watching your success and I'm impressed. "Thank you." "I run a venture capital firm. We invest in women-led businesses, particularly in the fitness and wellness space. I'd like to talk to you about expansion opportunities. Have you thought about franchising?" Franchising. Multiple locations. A regional chain of Momentum fitness studios, each one embodying the same principles: quality training, community focus, professional excellence. In my previous life, I'd never dreamed that big. I'd never dreamed at all. "I'd love to talk," I said. We exchanged information. She left and I stood in my gym, surrounded by the evidence of my success, and let myself feel it. Pride, satisfaction, vindication. This was everything my family said I couldn't do. Everything Rachel claimed she'd do, but never did. Everything I'd been denied in my previous life. I'd taken a second chance and turned it into an empire. My phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. "This is Rachel. I know you hate me, but I need help. Mom kicked me out. I have nowhere to go. Can I stay with you for a while, please?" I stared at the message for a long moment. In my previous life, would have said yes immediately. I would have taken her in, helped her get back on her feet, probably let her stay for months while she figured things out. Translation, mooched off me while contributing nothing. I would have convinced myself that family was family, that I had to be the bigger person, that helping her was the right thing to do. But I'd learned something in this timeline. You don't owe people kindness when they've shown you nothing but cruelty. You don't owe abusers a soft landing. You don't set yourself on fire to keep people warm who would use you as kindling. Me. No, 3 letters, the most powerful word in the English language. "Rachel, please, Claire. I'm desperate. I have no money." Me. "You had opportunities. You wasted them. That's not my problem." "Rachel, you're really gonna leave me homeless?" Me. "You made your choices. Now live with them." I blocked her number and deleted the conversation. Jenny found me a few minutes later, sitting in my office with the lights off, staring at nothing. "Hey, you okay?" Rachel texted, asked if she could move in with me. "Jesus, what did you say?" "No." Jenny sat down next to me. "You feel guilty?" "A little," I admitted. "Not much, but a little. She's still my sister." "She's been awful to you your entire life. You don't owe her anything." "I know." I did know, but knowing and feeling are different things. "You've built something amazing, Claire. Don't let her drag you down." That's what she does. She finds people who are succeeding and she latches on, pulling them down to her level. "She can't pull me down anymore," I said. "I won't let her." And I meant it. 3 years after my rebirth, 5 years after opening Momentum Fitness Studio, I stood in front of a crowd of 300 people at the grand opening of my fifth location. 5 studios across 2 states, 42 employees, 2,000 active clients, an annual revenue of $3.8 million. I was 22 years old and I'd been featured in Forbes, Entrepreneur magazine, and Women's Health. I'd given a TEDx talk about building businesses from nothing. I'd been invited to speak at fitness industry conferences, business schools, entrepreneurship summits. I owned a beautiful condo downtown, 2,000 square feet, floor-to-ceiling windows, a view of the city skyline. I drove a Tesla, I had a retirement account, an investment portfolio, and more money in my savings than I'd ever dreamed possible. More importantly, I was happy, genuinely, deeply happy. I'd proven everything I needed to prove. Not to my family, they didn't matter anymore, but to myself. I'd proven that I was capable, valuable, worthy of success. I'd proven that being underestimated was a superpower if you used it correctly. I'd turned my rebirth into a second chance and I'd made it count. Rachel reached out periodically, always with the same message. She needed money, she needed help, she needed me to bail her out of whatever mess she'd created. I never responded. I'd learned that no was a complete sentence, and silence was even more powerful. Mom eventually contacted me through Dad, asking if we could rebuild our relationship. I'd agreed to one coffee meeting. She'd spent the entire hour making excuses for Rachel, blaming me for the family rift, and suggesting that my success had come at Rachel's expense. I'd listened politely, finished my coffee, and said, "Thank you for your perspective. I disagree with essentially everything you've said. I don't think we have anything more to discuss." I never met with her again. Dad and I had built a functional relationship. Not close, not warm, but respectful and professional. He'd invested in 2 more of my locations and served on my advisory board. We talked business, not feelings. It worked for both of us. The rest of my life was mine. I had friends who valued me, employees who respected me, clients who trusted me. I had Jenny, who'd been my biggest cheerleader through everything and was now my business partner, handling all the marketing and social media for Momentum Fitness. I had Coach Martinez, who'd become a mentor and friend, who told everyone she'd known I'd be successful from the moment she saw that floor routine. I had a life I'd built myself with no debts owed to anyone. At the grand opening of location number 5, a journalist asked me the question I'd been waiting for someone to ask. What would you say to young women who feel overlooked or underestimated by their families? I took a breath and looked directly at the camera. I'd say this: being underestimated is a gift. When people don't expect anything from you, they don't watch you closely, they don't interfere, they don't compete with you. Use that invisibility as cover while you build something incredible. And when you finally reveal what you've created, when you show them exactly what they missed, exactly what they overlooked, exactly how wrong they were about you, that moment of recognition, that shock, that realization that they had a diamond and treated it like dirt, that's worth every moment of pain it took to get there. The journalist wrote it down word for word. It became the pull quote for the article, the soundbite that got shared thousands of times on social media. People reached out, strangers from around the world, sharing their own stories of being the overlooked child, the dismissed sibling, the underestimated daughter. They told me my story gave them hope, gave them permission to stop trying to earn love from people who would never give it, gave them courage to build their own empires. I answered every message I could because I remembered what it felt like to be invisible, to be dismissed, to be told you didn't matter. And I wanted them to know you do matter. Your dreams matter. Your potential matters. Don't let anyone convince you otherwise. It's been 7 years since my rebirth. I'm 24 now in this timeline. In my previous life, I'd be 35, alone, broke, filled with regret. Instead, I run a fitness empire with 12 locations and plans for national expansion. I have a net worth that would have seemed impossible in my previous life. I've been approached by major fitness chains about acquisition offers. I've turned them all down. Momentum Fitness isn't for sale, it's mine. Rachel is 30, still living with our parents, still blaming the world for her failures. She's tried to contact me twice in the last year, both times through fake social media accounts, both times asking for money, both times ignored. Mom has started telling people that she always knew I'd be successful, rewriting history to make herself look supportive. I let her. It cost me nothing, and her lies don't change the truth. Dad is proud in his limited way. He shows people pictures of my studios, tells them about my success. He doesn't talk about the years he ignored me, but I suppose that's human nature. We remember the stories we want to remember. I think about my previous life sometimes, all 35 years of it, the poverty, the loneliness, the wasted potential. Part of me is grateful for it because it gave me the roadmap to success this time around. But mostly, I'm grateful it's over. I got a second chance, and I didn't waste it. Last month, I bought the house I grew up in. My parents were downsizing, and I made them an offer they couldn't refuse. It's a rental property now. I have tenants, good people who pay on time and take care of the place. But sometimes I drive past it and remember the girl who lived in the closet bedroom, who was invisible in her own home, who was told she didn't matter. I wish I could go back and tell her, you do matter. You're stronger than anyone knows. You're going to build something incredible. You're going to prove them all wrong. But I can't go back to that timeline. That version of me lived her life and died alone. All I can do is honor her by living this life to its fullest, by never taking success for granted, by never forgetting what it felt like to be dismissed and overlooked. That gym clothes incident, Rachel taking my competition leotard, that moment of betrayal, it was the beginning of the end in my first life. It broke something in me, made me give up on my dreams. In this life, it was the spark that lit the fire. My sister used my gym clothes. She thought she was taking something valuable from me. She thought she was winning. She had no idea she was losing. She had no idea that moment would fuel my transformation, would push me to build an empire, would be the catalyst for everything I became. After Rebirth, I didn't just become a personal trainer with my own studio. I became everything they said I couldn't be. I became successful, powerful, independent, and free. And every time I walk into one of my studios, every time I see the momentum logo on the wall, every time a client tells me I've changed their life, I think about that 17-year-old girl watching her sister steal her leotard, and I smile. Because that girl won. She won everything. She took every ounce of pain, every moment of dismissal, every year of being invisible, and she turned it into something beautiful. She turned it into momentum. And once you have momentum, nothing can stop you.